I would like to acknowledge that this video is being filmed on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander or First Nations people who may be watching this video today. Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have the book annotation tag. This was originally created by Jessie from Bowties and Books, and I'll leave their channel linked down below. I was not tagged to do this video, but I felt like it was probably time for me to do another book annotation video anyway. I do have one from years and years ago, but this is a more updated one on my process for annotating my books. Question 1 is, do you mark your annotations with page flags? I'm so glad you asked that. Yes, I do. I mark them a lot. I added a sub-question to this because this doesn't really talk about digital books. So 1B, self-inserted question, do you annotate your ebooks? I do, but I annotate differently in my ebooks to the way that I annotate my physical books. I'm going to talk more about the physical annotation in a minute, but in terms of my ebooks, I mostly annotate and record key quotes, things that really stand out to me, which is a little bit different to my physical annotation process. Question 2 is, do you match your page flags to the cover of the book, or do you have a set flagging system? I mostly have a set flagging system. I will preface this by saying these days I tend to only really seriously annotate the books that I know that I'm going to love, favorite authors, favorite series, all of that sort of thing. If it's a physical book that I'm reading that I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about it, I probably don't follow the same in-depth process. I might only just pick one color or something like that because I'm not tracking the things that I would normally track in my favorite books. So I use these page flags from Amazon. Typically speaking, the colors in this series, and I know I've talked about this in vlogs, pink is for favorite quotes, orange is for political, social, etc. commentary, so real world stuff that just reminds me of. Yellow is for relationships, green is for plot points, blue is for things that elicit an emotional response from me, so happy, sad, laughing, etc. Light purple, the last one, tends to be things we learn about characters. So particularly if I'm following a character through a series, I might use this one. Purple has a different meaning depending on the book. And the best way I can describe it is if I have a particular favorite character, now this happens mostly in my series, that I want to track through the series, then I'll use purple to track them. So for example, Judd in Caressed by Ice by Nalini Singh is one of my favorite characters. As I tracked him through the Side Changing series, his page flag was the dark purple. So in Heart of Obsidian, anytime Judd appeared, he's flagged with dark purple. I did use the dark purple in Caressed by Ice, but instead I switched that from following Judd to World Facts just for the series, and that's because I was also doing in-depth reviews of all of these books. Similarly, in the Green Creek series by TJ Klune, I used the dark purple to track Kelly and Robbie's relationship. So their relationship really kicks off in Heart Song, which is book 3, but I was tracking sort of their interactions and things like that from Wolf Song through Raven Song as well, just because when I tagged these up, I was rereading them, so I knew that they would be coming up, so I went through and I actually included those annotations. Question 3 is, what is the first book that you ever annotated? And to be perfectly honest, I can't remember because that would have been closer to my booktube starting journey when I was just page flagging. But if I go to the first time that I used page flags and physically annotated the book with a pen, it was Star Wars From a Certain Point of View. This was the short story collection for the 40th anniversary of Star Wars, and I actually went through and not only used page flags, but I was underlining, I was writing in the book, pulling out my favorite quotes and rewriting them. Like, I was having the best fun reading this. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I felt really comfortable doing that with this particular book because I knew it was something A, I was going to keep, B, it was just really something close to my heart. This is probably the first one where I really in-depth did that, and I loved it. Question 4 is, have you ever been against annotating? I've never actually been against annotating it. I just possibly wasn't doing it, mostly because I couldn't be bothered, but now I really enjoy the process. Question 5 is, did you ease into annotating your books or did you just jump straight into it? I think it kind of depends on how you interpret that answer. Did I need to ease into using page flags? No, that was not an issue. I probably had to ease into actually writing in my books just because it's not something I've done in fictional texts. I've usually done it in school texts before. So to me, it's a slightly different process and mindset. So that probably took a little bit more easing into it. But for the most part, this is nothing. Question 6 is, do you keep an unannotated copy of the books that you annotate? Only if I have a second copy. Some books, particularly if I'm buying special editions or things like that, I might have an unannotated copy, but I don't deliberately keep an unannotated copy. That is really hard to say. multiple times in a row. To be perfectly honest, these days, if I'm annotating a book, it's because I know that I really, really want to keep it. So I don't feel the need to have a second copy because it's my copy. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. Question 7, has anyone ever annotated a book for you? No, but one is currently in process. So with some friends, we have some traveling books going around, and I have a copy of The Nightmare by Regine Abel, which is going around and being annotated by my friends, which is really exciting for me. I'm hoping to do more of them. And I have also started participating in one as well, where I'm annotating for someone else. So I'm really enjoying that experience. I'm very, very excited to get my copy back whenever it's done, because I think it's going to be really special. Question 8 is, do you mind used books that have annotations in them? No, I don't typically tend to buy a lot of used books, but that's only because I don't have a lot of used bookstore options around me. But it wouldn't bother me because they're traces of the people who have read the books before. And there is a truly, truly gorgeous Australian young adult book called Words in Deep Blue by Kath Crowley, which is about a family who own a bookstore, and they happen to have a little section at the back of their shop called the letter library, which are books that people can literally come in, sit down and read and spend time. They've got like, I think they've got a little coffee shop in there, but they can annotate and write in the books. So they're not books for sale, they're books that stay there. And when I first read that, I just fell in love with that concept because they were traces of people left behind who had, you know, some connection to a book, and they left that connection behind and other people could then read it. And it does play a huge part in the plot. But the whole thing was just really gorgeous and beautiful, and it stuck with me. I think it's a powerful thing to leave your thoughts behind in a book, especially one that means so much to you. Question 9 is, have you ever gotten hate or horrified stares from people for writing in your books? Probably, but I don't care. That's their problem, not mine. Question 10 is, what do you annotate your books with? As I mentioned, the page flags just from Amazon. If I find the link, I'll leave it down below. I also use just usually a plain black pen, or if I'm doing this traveling book thing, I'm changing the colors of the pen just so we can distinguish who's leaving which comments. The pen that I prefer to use is this one. It's the Uni Jetstream 101 in the 0.7 tip. It's just a really nice pen to write with. These are my favorite pens ever. And occasionally I might pull out a highlighter. Question 11, have you ever regretted annotating a book? No. It gets a little bit annoying sometimes. This is why my process with page flags has evolved sort of over the last couple of years, because if I was annotating all the books that I read, and then when I was clearing out books, I had to pull out the page flags before I passed them on. I felt that was probably a better way to go. That gets a little bit tedious and annoying, but no, I don't actually regret doing it. It's just, you know, a side effect. And that's why now I tend to annotate on reread, because I know that that's a book that I'm keeping. Question 12 is, why do you annotate? Mostly because the books are important to me. There's some kind of connection, emotional, etc. connection that I have to the book. I want to remember that. And when I go back and reread a book, I want to see, oh, where did I stop? What, you know, why did I make a note of this? Like, that sort of thing is really interesting to me. Sometimes it's useful for reviews. I don't tend to always go back and find them. You guys also know that I keep a digital book journal, so I do actually add favorite quotes from the books in there just as a record keeping thing. So that's when I might go back to those page flags. Mostly it's just as a record of, or keeping tracks of your thinking, really, is a term that we use in Think Alouds in teaching, is, you know, remembering and stopping at parts of the book that resonate with you for some reason. And I think that's a really fun thing. Question 13 is, when underlining, do you use a ruler? No, because that would mean having to find a ruler and then having to be really precise. I'm not that precise with my annotations. And question 14, I feel like I've kind of already answered this. Do you annotate every book that you read? Yes and no. I try to save favorite quotes from every book that I read, whether it's an ebook or a physical book, just because of how I keep my book journal. And also I love quotes. I love collecting them, but I don't typically do the same massive process of annotating my books as I would with something that I love, like the Changeling series or Green Creek or anything like that. The book will determine how deeply I annotate a book. I guess that's the end of that answer. That is the end of the tag. In the comments, I'd love to know if you annotate your books or not. Feel free to let me know what your process is down below. I'm not going to tag anyone specifically, but if you would like to do this tag, feel free to do it. It was really fun just to think and reflect on my process. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.